one day I went to a specialist and he said, have you considered taking antidepressants? And I thought, no, you're wrong, and goodbye.
Hi, welcome to PWRMUMS Podcast. Today we're joined by Fatima Martinez, who is joining us for a slightly different podcast. For those of you who don't know, the 10th of October was World Mental Health Day. And so Fatima, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Would you mind introducing yourself, a little bit about you, where you came from?
My name is Fatima and I was born in Mexico, and I lived in Mexico until I was about 18 years, and then my globe-trotting started. I moved first to Italy on a gap year, and then I went to England for university, and I stayed there. I got married there. I became an adult there, and 13 years later we moved to Singapore. So I've been here almost 4 years.
Almost 4 years. And
Yes.
you are also a mummy?
Yes, I'm a mom of two. I have Frida, who is 3 years old, and I have Sonia, who is 11 months old. Yeah.
And they were born back?
No, they were born here in Singapore. So I found out I was pregnant in London, and then the next week, an opportunity for my husband to move to Singapore arose, and we thought, oh yeah, let's do it. Super easy, you know. Who hasn't had a child and moved countries? Yeah. I do not recommend to anyone.
top tip?
Yeah, top tip,
do
don't. If you can avoid it, obviously, you know, sometimes you can't, but if you can avoid it, don't move countries whilst pregnant.
Yes.
And try to settle like somewhere completely new where you have no family, no friends, no support system, anything.
We actually touched on that in a previous podcast with another lady who moved over while pregnant, and just there's a lot of struggles of moving into a completely new chapter in your lives without the support network and things like that.
Yeah.
Which then leads me on to the fact that, so I mentioned before, last week was World Mental Health Day. So Fatima is actually sharing her story today about postpartum depression.
Yeah.
So we're very grateful that you're being honest and brave to share your story. So thank you.
Well, I think, you know, I don't think it should be, I don't think we should see it as bravery, you know? I don't know, when you say, oh, I have diabetes, like nobody comes and says like, oh, congratulations, you're
They
brave.
say step away from the biscuits.
Yeah, exactly. Like watch your glucose. But I think it just goes on to show, and I say this for myself, that we are not used to discussing mental health at all, and it's a real shame because. What are the statistics? I'm sure you know better than I, but I think 1 in 5, or probably now after the pandemic, like 5 in 5 will experience some kind of a mental health episode. And it's something that we just choose to ignore, yet all of us, one way or another, are touched by it. So ideally, it would become just more commonplace.
Yeah.
I think that, as I told you when we met, the decision to, in a way, come out of the closet for mental health came from listening to a podcast in which Alistair Campbell, who used to be the spin doctor for Tony Blair.
Yeah, some of our viewers might not know Alistair Campbell. Our non-British ones over a certain age.
Exactly. Anyway, this is a guy who used to be at the sort of top sphere of politics in the UK. Is super open about his mental health, and you know, depression, anxiety, addictions. And I thought, wait a minute, if you know, nobody would doubt how capable he is, yet he suffers, or he's experiencing this. why can't I be open about it?
Yeah.
I think that the more we deny it or the less we talk about it, the more it persists.
Yes, definitely.
To our detriment.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone goes, I can't talk about it because there's this stigma attached to it. And this is the stigma that is definitely still.
And there's a stigma and there's a shame, and I experience it myself. If I say that I had postpartum depression, will people treat me differently? Yeah. If they know that I am on medication, will they not consider me? Or what will they think of me? There's a lot of fear of being judged, and also shame around it. Yeah.
Well, and it does take people like yourself that are willing to talk about it. So back to your story then, and we've talked about it previously. So growing up, long before you had children, depression was a part of your life.
Yeah, depression was a part of my life. I was, in a former lifetime, I was an athlete. So I was part of the national triathlon team in Mexico. It was like, okay, Fatima's going to the Olympics, and that's her role in life, and that's what's going to happen. End of story. But I started getting injured, constantly injured, and I would feel very tired, and things were just not really progressing the way I expected them to. But also for someone so young, I just, there's something wrong with me, and I couldn't really point it out. I mean, I had all sorts of tests done, and thyroid and blood work and whatever, until one day I went to a specialist, and he said, have you considered taking antidepressants? And I thought, no, you're wrong, and goodbye.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the first wake-up call. I was about to graduate from high school, and I had been accepted to medical school. So my career as a semi-professional young athlete was coming to an end. At that point, I had been living away from my parents because I was in a special part of the country where all the facilities existed for me to train and go to high school. So there were a lot of changes. I was breaking up with my first boyfriend, and I don't know, just a lot of stuff started to happen. It got to the point where I couldn't train anymore. I didn't have the energy, and I wanted to sleep, and I was tired, and I put it down to a virus, whatever. But the truth is, that was probably one of the first episodes of depression for me. And these episodes started to happen more and more. Okay. So more often, they would last longer, and they would be more intense. Okay. So by the time I started university, I had been diagnosed with depression, and I was on medication. Fortunately, it was not the right medication, and my doctors were in Mexico, and I was by myself in the UK, and I don't know, I think about it now, and I thought I was an adult. I was 21. I was 21, and I lived in another country and another continent, and I had been managing myself since I was 17. So I don't know, having a doctor back home and then taking the prescription away and not having any sort of proper follow-up did not work. I didn't really think much about it. But anyway, I managed to finish university, and my medication had stopped.
So we should have introduced you as doctor.
I was supposed to.
Yeah.
But, so medical school in Mexico, no. Once I was in Europe, I thought there's no way I can go back to Mexico.
No.
I don't know, I loved this vibrancy Because here you had this really small landmass with so many different cultures and different languages and ways of doing things and colors and flavors, and everything seemed to coincide. And I don't know, I just thought that made a very rich environment that I loved.
So you had this aspect of loving this culture, but you had this internal battle going on of being on this medication.
Yeah, I mean, I was on medication. I would talk to the doctors at university, because there's a surgery usually at uni. They're used to treating, I think, students with hangovers. And
I was going to say some topics, some other student-related issues.
Yeah, issues. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I they would reissue my prescription, and it was fine, but I didn't have any therapy. So how much did the medication help? I'm not too sure. Fast forward, I'm having recurrent episodes. They're getting longer and stronger. I was married by this point, because I met my husband at university. We got married on the same week as our graduation.
Oh, how lovely!
We had to coordinate people from across the Atlantic. So, so we thought, everyone will be in town for our graduation. So why don't we do it the same way?
Makes perfect sense. 2 birds, 1 stone.
And I was very open with my husband when we met. So he knew I had issues.
Yeah.
I tried afterwards going to therapy, and I was put again on medication, but nothing seemed to work until it really got to the point where I was really struggling. I was starting to make plans for an afterlife. So a doctor actually back home in Mexico said, you know what, this is not you, there's something going on here. Promise me you'll go and see a psychiatrist. And I was like, no, medication doesn't work, I've given up on everything. I've tried the yoga, the nutrition, the retreat, the vitamins, everything, and nothing is making a difference. But I promised, and I kept my word, and I met this wonderful doctor, and he put me on the right medication for the first time in my life. And I remember started taking the medication, which is called duloxetine, for those of you who might want to know. And I was like, this is not going to work, because nothing works on me, and blah, 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 blah. But after about 3 days, I remember I was in our flat, and I was sitting down, and I felt this curtains opening, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. I mean, not in a euphoric sense, but I'm feeling normal. Yeah. This is what it is to feel normal. So I was on this medication.
Yeah. And how long was it from when the doctor, the specialist back in Mexico, first said, have you considered it might be depression, to getting on the right medicine? How many years?
At least 12 or 13.
That's 12 or 13 years too many, hey?
Yeah.
Because somebody's mentioned it, and by the time you got to the point of realizing, okay, maybe this could be it, you just don't know what avenues there are to...
Yeah, and I think, how can I say this? I would go, whenever I experienced this episodes, I mean, my mood would be low, and there were all these sort of signs, and I would... somebody would point it out, and I would say, okay, yes, I'm probably depressed, which in itself can be shameful, because what's wrong with me? Why can't I pull myself together, right? Yeah. Why can't I just think positive? And
exercise it, especially with your background. Exercise it away.
Exercise it away. I have everything in life, as in my survival needs, at least physically, are covered. I don't want for anything. I'm healthy. I have a husband who, loves me and takes care of me, and I have friends. I have a support system. Yet, this sense of contentment and this sense of fulfillment and of feeling to an extent whole was not there for me.
Yeah.
So I would go to my GP and they would say, "Oh, you're probably a bit depressed, take this." And it's kind of the standard medication that they will give to anyone who complains of a low mood. Yeah. And I think the intention is right, but unfortunately I think that it might not be the right answer for many. I was going to therapy, but therapy was not really working. It's like having an injury, having a torn, muscle, and I need to go to the gym and I am going to make my biceps grow. No, you need to rest it out, and you may need some anti-inflammatories, or at least, some arnica.
See a physio.
Yeah, see a physio, exactly. And then, after you recover and that has healed, you can think about everything else. Yes. So it took me a while of not finding the right counselor, or not finding the right doctor, or not finding the right medication, and it took me a while. Could I have done something more? Maybe not. I think maybe there's not enough information out there. Maybe, these are the signs and symptoms of depression, but who do I go to see? And not only who do I go to see, I think you need to have a relationship with that.
Click as well with them, right? Click
with them. And I think it's not just with a mental health professional that it's important to have that relationship. I mean, you want to have that relationship with your gynae, with your pediatrician. Yeah. You want to click with them and feel that there's some kind of rapport. Yeah. Otherwise, it just
what's the point?
Work. Yeah,
you're just talking. Were you able to talk to your husband?
Yeah. So I was able to talk to my husband about it. I think it was it was very hard for him. Not only the depression, so there was this very low energy, to an extent a bit of social phobia, because I felt every time I went out I had to put this mask on, and it would leave me drained to just be there pretending like everything's great, and inside I was just not feeling great.
And he would have known that, right?
He would have known that, but I think to an extent he thought that maybe it was part of my character. And I think humans are able to put up with crap.
But also, I guess I wonder whether he also might have thought, not that you tricked him, but you also had him fooled. Maybe he thought, once you're out, she's okay.
I mean, you put a mask to others, but you also put a mask to your significant other, because it does get to a point that you get tired of yourself.
Yeah, and I guess if you're tired of yourself, you know that they must be tired of you.
And I to an extent I don't blame him. I think you can become, you're not fulfilling your role, and then others have to compensate for you, and I think it really puts a strain on relationships.
Yeah, and that was before your kids came. Was there ever a time when you thought, it would be better if I was just by myself, dealing with this by myself?
Yes.
Did you ever try push him away?
Yeah. I mean, it got to the point when I was at my lowest that we thought, I think it's better if we split up. It was a very painful, it was a very difficult period. When you have depression, you have this very negative view of yourself. It's very hard to explain, but it's like having these really dark glasses on, and your perception of the world, I think, is to an extent very distorted. Mm-hmm. Your self-criticism, your ability to cope with problems is impaired.
And does that, sorry to interrupt you, but does that change once you're on the right medication?
Yeah. Now, I mean, you have this baby, and for some women there's an issue of not being able to bond with the baby, okay, or not being able to kind of feel identified with it. That didn't happen to me, but there was just this guilt because I had this baby and she was healthy and she was fine, but I felt like I was going to die.